Hi, I'm Lisa from Elman B, and I thought tonight, instead of recording a tutorial, I would pop on here and do a little live stream tutorial. I posted this a couple of months ago, or about a month ago, and I just posted it as a little time-lapse tutorial, and I have had so many requests for people wanting the full step-by-step, so I thought I would pop on live and do this as a step-by-step tutorial. So hi everybody that's joined already, that's amazing. I am going to paint this for you tonight. We're going to have to do some crazy changing of the camera angles so that you guys can see what I'm up to. I'm going to paint it square just because I ran out of these little mini canvases, and I do want to keep it quite small so that we can get through it quite quickly. Annoyingly, when you go live, you can only do it on your phone like this, so trying to paint that way is a bit awkward. So we're gonna flip the phone camera and I'll point you down so that you can see what I'm doing, and I might change it again up halfway through, but we are going to do a full step-by-step of this one this evening because I know that you guys have been asking for it. So I'm going to say a quick hello to everybody, and I will keep saying hello, but because I'm going to have to flip my phone, I'm not going to see everybody's name as they're joining, unfortunately. But thank you all so much for being here. Honestly, your support so far has been absolutely amazing. It's totally blown my mind at the amount of support that I'm getting for my daily art challenge. Obviously this is quite a lot bigger than my little tiny minis that I'm usually painting, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me. But we're painting slightly bigger, at least we're keeping it square, and I am going to do this one for you this evening. This is a total beginner friendly, honestly, even if you've never painted before. I have taught people that have never painted before to do this painting, so you can absolutely do that later. Again, hello everybody that's joining me just now. I'm sorry I'm not going to keep being able to say hello to everybody because I'm not going to be able to actually see my screen. I'm going to have to point you down the way so that you can see what I'm painting. But hello, I'm so glad that everybody's joining tonight. That's amazing. I will do more lives, I promise. Maybe I will think of a better setup where I can kind of paint like this so that I can name check everybody and say hi as you're coming on. We're going to try and keep it quick tonight, just as a little beginner friendly, but I know so many have been asking where is the full step-by-step for this, because I just posted it as a cheeky wee time lapse. So let's get into the step-by-step for this just now. Okay, let me faff about with phones and change everybody round so that you can see what I'm doing. Here we go. Right, so we are gonna flip the camera and then I'm gonna point you down this way, and I'm gonna find a nice clean space-ish on my desk, and let me get you back in my little stand here. Okay, so I know, sorry, that was a little bit of a crazy flip there, but it does just mean that you can see my canvas. Here we go. So welcome to Scotland. Oh, give me a little, tell me where you're watching from. Let me see. I am very well, thanks for asking. Do you know what? I can just about still see the screen, which is quite good. So please do tell me where you're watching from. That would be absolutely amazing. So you can probably tell from my accent that I'm in Scotland. The sun's going down already here. It's getting dark outside. throwing pencils everywhere. Right, first thing we're going to do is we are just going to draw a nice straight line across the canvas. I tend to avoid halfway. When you're doing a square, halfway kind of works, but on a landscape, then, oh, hello from Germany, hi. On a landscape, I would maybe go just below the halfway point or just above the halfway point. Think we're gonna go a little bit below halfway, so I'm just gonna be a bit cheeky and I'm just gonna use this painting that I've got here as my ruler. And we're just going to draw a little straight line, just like that, across our canvas. So anybody else happy to tell me where they're checking in from? I've got Germany so far. Where else are you guys from? What time of day is it where you are as well? We are well and truly in the evening. Right, then you want to grab something circular. Aim for about the middle of your canvas. Doesn't need to be exact. That's my midpoint there, and I am just going to draw a little half circle. So I just wanted you guys to see how easy it was to get the base shape for this one. Sometimes I come on and I've got a pre-drawn canvas, but for anybody that's just joining, please say hello, say hi, let me know where you're tuning in from, and we are going to be painting this evening. So we've got our little straight line and we've got our half circle. So let's get on to some paint. I am just using an old palette here. Actually, I might grab a slightly bigger one. Here we go. I always find what's really awkward with the old YouTube lives is you can't do them landscape. Anyway, we are going to need a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow, some orange, some white, and a couple of blues. So I like using the Liquitex Basics. So I'm just going to squeeze out a small amount of each, because I do have to remember that it is a really small canvas that we're working on. So we're just going to pop down a little bit of orange, and then we're going to pop down a little bit yellow. I am going to go in with a cobalt blue and a phthalo blue, because it's got that little bit of green to it, even though it's very, very dark. I've got some Prussian blue there too as well, if I decide to go a bit darker, but we're going to start with those two, and then we have got some white. So first things first, we're going to try and create that nice blended effect at the top half. So what you want to do is you want to get a little bit water on your canvas. So literally just dipping in some paint water. It's not the cleanest water, so you can probably see the colour going on. And I'm just going to paint that over this top half. I'm going to work quite quickly with this. It is a demo, and just so you guys can see all the techniques. I'm going to go over onto that sun area a little bit, but I'm not going to fully wet the inside of the sun. So that is my top bit, and it is got a little bit of water over it, and I'm not so worried about the bottom half down here. Hopefully you can see that. If you are just joining me, we are doing a quick demonstration of how to do this one step by step, because lots of people have been asking me for it. And if you are just joining, please feel free to say hi in the comments. Let me know where you're joining from. That would be cool as well. Right, I am going straight in with some red. I'm just going to mix all of my colors straight on the canvas. So I am going in with some red. Along that top of the canvas there, just working back and forth in horizontal strokes, and then I'm going straight in with some orange, and I'm just blending that into the red. Now my top tip here is go very small on the red, a little bit more orange, and then leave a big space for the yellow, because I never clean my brush between colors, so it means that you can end up with too dark a color at the top, or you can end up with the dark bit coming too far down. So we've got a little bit of red, just a single stripe almost, and then we've got a bit of orange, and then I'm just picking up the yellow. I've not cleaned my brush at all between any of those, and then I'm going in with that yellow, and I'm just picking up more yellow, and I'm going to paint over the line of my sun a little bit, but I'm going to mostly leave my sun untouched, because I do want to get that quite bright and white. So you can see why I only painted the orange and the red at the top, because when you've still got the orange and the red paint on your brush, you'll get a bit of that colour coming into the yellow anyway. You can quite quickly get lots of that coming into the yellow bit, and you do want the bottom to be a nice yellow sunset. So we are working into our sun a tiny bit, just working horizontal strokes again, just working back and forward, back and forward. And then blending that yellow back up the way, blending it back up and into that orange and red at the top. I'm going to do a tiny last touch of red right on that top line, just to darken it a tiny bit more. And I'm going to call that the sky done. So that is how easy it is. The biggest tip and the trick of the whole thing is to wet that canvas first. You're not adding water to your acrylics. You're not adding any extra water to the paint or your brush. You're just adding water to the canvas, and then you're just using your brush to blend from the darkest to the lightest colour, and don't clean your brush in between. Now, before we pick up our blues to do our blue, I am just going to clean my brush off underneath the sun, because that's where I kind of want that triangle of orangey light to be. So I'm just kind of using that to clean my brush off, and then I'll just clean the rest of it off elsewhere on the sea. Never waste any paint. So if you're just joining me, I've had loads of requests for this, which I did as a little time lapse recently, and I thought I would just pop on and do a quick live so that you guys can see step by step exactly how to paint this one. If you've just joined me, please feel free to say hi. Let me know where you are joining from. Okay, next I'm going in with my blues. I've got a phthalo blue and a cobalt blue. And we're going to start putting some blue down to create this sea effect, and I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm pretty much going to paint the whole thing with this flat brush, but I'll show you how to use a couple of different brushes as well. But let's go straight in with our blues. I'm just picking up a bit of both blues. Let me show you that on this palette here. So I'm just going in and I've got both blues on my brush there. And I'm just going to start down the bottom here, and I'm just going to try and get a vague blue over the whole thing, but I don't want it to be too thick. So I'm trying to work in a nice thin layer with the two blues, and I'm working in towards that triangle that's in the middle. When I get to the horizon line, I am just going to use the flat edge of this big flat brush, and I'm just going to draw my little horizon line there. And again, just working lots of horizontal brush strokes in this one. And we're going to do our little horizon line on this side and then work back and forth. Now, purposely coming over onto that orange triangle that we made, because I want to start making the effect of the waves. Oh, moving the canvas there. I want to start making the effect of those waves. And like I say, I'm not worried about the blue being really thick. You can see that there's lots of white bits still coming through. That's okay at this stage. We're just trying to get a basic layer down so that I can then build up lots and lots of different blues on top. Now, a little trick about water, and this is just a very, very random general theory, but it does help. If you make the edges and the bit of water closest to you in the painting darker, then it kind of tricks you into there being a bit of perspective or distance. Now, this is obviously the sea, so the sea doesn't have edges. It's not like a pond or a lake or a loch or something like that you're painting where it actually has an edge. But just to help with that perspective trick, if you make it a little bit darker along the bottom and at the edges of your painting, then it's going to help you just get a little bit of depth and perspective in there. So let's go in with a bit of white now. So again, I haven't cleaned out my brush. I'm just picking up some white, and I can pick up some of the blues and white at the same time. Hi guys, hi to everybody that has just joined. I'm doing a little step by step of how to paint this one. I've got my camera facing down at the moment, but I will pop it back up so I can say hi and see everybody again in a little minute. I am just using this little flat brush again. So I'm been using the flat brush for the whole thing. And I'm just going to start adding little dashes, leaving some of that darker underneath blue to come through. And I'm going to bring those dashes over onto where we left that little triangle. But what we're going to try and do is bring some of them, we're going to make an uneven line. We don't want a perfect triangle. And then I never clean my brush. I'm so bad. So I'm just picking up now some of the light blue and the dark blue again, but obviously there's still some white on my brush. And we're adding in little dashes with that. And you just want to build up loads of colours and keep your brush nice and flat. So wipe off some excess paint and flatten your brush back out so you've got that nice flat pointed edge, so you can then pick up the dark and the light again and have a nice flat edge to work with. If you're just joining me, please say hello, let me know where you're joining from, and I'll try and say hi. It's really difficult for me to actually see the comments and the screen when I've got my camera pointing down the way. We're just adding loads of little dashes and we're picking up loads of different blues. I'm picking up, I've got 2 blues on my palette and I've got white, and we're just creating lots of different blues. Like I said, try and keep this bottom bit and the edges a little bit darker. That's a really good way to fake some perspective with water. If you've been following along with my daily art challenge, then please feel free to suggest things that I might paint for my daily art challenge. You can send me photos. You can send them on all my other socials. You could probably post a picture in the community tab and tag me in it. There's loads of information all over on how to send me images, but it doesn't have to be images. You can just send me stuff. Yes, Jess, I am using acrylic paints. I am using my favourite acrylic paints, which is just Liquitex. I do sometimes have the Liquitex Heavy Body Professionals, but see, to do something like this, actually sometimes the Liquitex Basics is better. They're a bit more fluid, so they work quite well for blending, whereas the heavy bodies are really difficult to blend. So Liquitex is one of my favourite brands, and I'm using Liquitex tonight. So yep, they're all acrylics. I always work in acrylics. My other favourite brand that I like is the Winsor Newton. You can see these are little tiny tubes though. These are the ones that I'm using for my daily minis. This is a bigger canvas, so I'm using my Liquitex Basics. But yep, we are working in acrylics right now. So I'm just going back in with a little bit of the white in my brush now to bring in a few little marks. Painting this super quick. I obviously spent 2 or 3 times as long painting this version, but I'm just doing this one quickly so you guys can see how to do it. So please feel free, if you are still watching, drop me a comment. Let me know what you would like to see me paint in the daily art challenge. Right, I am going to start going in with a bit more of the white on my brush just to really break up these waves. Remember, we're just trying to give the impression of some waves. And I'm going to start working towards the horizon line and then working on this bit in the middle as well. Here we go. Somebody saying, can I draw? Oh, I don't know who or what that is. No, sorry, not sure. I tend to draw fairies and woodlands and nature and the magic that can be found all around us day to day. Even a seascape's a bit unusual for me. And this is just a beginner friendly tutorial. I teach painting tutorials in person round about me locally, and I just thought, let's bring some of that really easy step-by-step beginner friendly stuff to my YouTube channel, because although it's fun watching my daily minis, right, it's also fun to see stuff that you guys can paint yourself. And I might do some lives where I'm painting some harder stuff and stuff that I'm like spending more time of, and maybe painting over a couple of sessions. Right, I'm not actually going to wash my brush clean, but I have got lots and lots of paint on here, and I do want to get that nice flat tip back. I'm kind of losing the flat tip, so I'm just going to actually take some of the paint off on a little paper towel, but I've still not cleaned it, so I've still got a bit of the dark blue, and I'm going back in now with straight white so I can get a much finer mark. And I'm just going to tap. I'm not even really moving the brush now, I'm just kind of tapping straight down the way to get a little broken line. As you can see, I've got some more white. Now we're just going straight in on this little center bit here with just the blue that is left on my brush and the white, and I'm just going to tap that. Here we go. And we're just tapping that in. Hi guys. No, I'm just painting a really easy step-by-step sunset over the ocean. That's all we're doing today. We're just here painting something simple and easy that I have taught to people that have never painted before. All we've got to do is a bit of a blendy sky and then lots of tapping with a paintbrush. So we're just working with the straight white right now, and we're just bringing that one down. So now the trick here with this kind of triangle that we've got reflecting from the sun is making the edges of it uneven. And then we're going to bring in some of the white. Still a bit of blue on my brush, but we're just bringing some of that white into other spots on our lovely ocean as well. And then we're going to go in with a little bit of yellow over that very pale bluey white that we've got in the middle. Here we go. Right, so guys, I can see people are commenting. I can say hi. I can see folk that are asking for shout outs, but I can't read in great detail because I've had to point my phone down the way so that you guys can see what I'm painting, and I don't have the full comments up. So I think if I can just about read it. Shira wants a shout out. Hi. Hi, just hi to everybody that is joining. Thank you so much for joining. We're just doing a very, very basic, beginner friendly little ocean